everybody, do you dare to refuse my bachal? Welcome to another Throwback Thursday GMG review. This time we are taking a look at Battletech, the first Somerset Strikers, the Battletech animated series sourcebook. So, why did I want to go through this? This was actually something that Jay suggested we do. Because one, it's incredibly fun and funny. Two, it kind of falls into the camp of Jay and I having stupid ideas that we then play out on camera for you guys. And three, this is actually very interesting, almost like historically from a wargaming point of view. Now, most of my throwback reviews have been through Games Workshop products, and that was really important because they were, of course, one of the sort of like originators of this industry. But during the late 80s, early 90s, it was sort of being discovered in the industry. There was money to be made in tabletop, not just in writing source books and RPGs and stuff, but in this sort of like emerging market of tabletop miniature games, where you're creating tiny worlds and playing out stories, whether it was role playing, which was sort of like the founding kind of element of this, through to playing war games. When there's money, when people can smell money, basically, there's tons of sort of like pretenders to the throne. And at the time, if you were sort of just a consumer, I mean, at that point, I'm a kid basically going into being a teen, and I'm discovering all these games. And from my point of view, standing in the game shop, they all kind of seem equally big and impressive. And that's because at the time, these companies are a few dozen people, maybe a handful of people, creating toy soldiers and selling them. And from looking at the packaging, you don't know which of these companies is going to go on to become a multi-million-dollar corporation, and which one is going to fade away or collapse or not succeed. So FASA Corporation at the time, making Battletech, this is sort of like the heyday of Battletech here. And at the time, the contemporary for this, what's the year imprint on this? I've immediately forgotten. This one's 95, right? So 1995. Games Workshop has just like, they're basically midway through second edition. It's going to end in 98 with third edition. So it's the height of second edition Warhammer 40,000. It's the height of fourth and fifth edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So Hero Hammer, if you will. Game shops are stocking this, and it's the height of Battletech. This is probably peak Battletech as well. And the FASA Corporation had a ton of very cool properties. They had a competitor to Warhammer 40k called Vor the Maelstrom. They had, did they make Crucible? There was a fantasy game as well called Crucible with like weird pumpkin-headed fighters and all kinds of like sort of dark fantasy monsters and stuff. And you're talking about a time where there was a very real possibility that, and of course there was Battletech, the mech simulator, that was also an RPG that was incredibly popular at the time as well. Where people were placing bets on which was going to be the most successful, and they were starting to emerge into popular culture. So what's interesting about this book is, this is based on the animated TV series. Now there's people arguing probably in the comments that it wasn't successful, it only lasted one season, it was kind of cheesy and hokey, but they dumped a ton of money into this. The computer graphics they used at the time are more advanced than almost any computer graphics you'd see in video games in 1995. And for that reason, they only had a few mechs in this line-drawn computer graphics. They came up with a whole story reason as to like when you put your battle vision on, why there was this sort of like computer animation that all the mech fights would drop into. And it basically told the story of the fall of Somerset, the clan invasion. It's centered in the clan invasion time, and the inner sphere basically discovering what happened to half the military of their sort of like empire, the Star League, that they went out there and they come back as almost inhuman monsters. Like they don't have anything in common with the Inner Sphere people. They have evolved a completely different culture, and they invade and just start taking everything over. So this source book, I think, is worth going through, kind of like take a short story long. There you go, FAST Corporation in Chicago, Illinois. So you have a U.S. company going up against the juggernaut that is Games Workshop in the UK. So you had tons of novels at the time. Interestingly enough, the rock publishing for Battletech, this is like, we think of Games Workshop as a huge publishing company, publishing tons of books. They'd published maybe a dozen books at the time that Battletech was publishing all of their novels, and Battletech had done dozens and dozens, probably close to 100 novels at this point. A huge amount of fiction was being written for Battletech by FASA. They had a toy line. Now again, people will argue this wasn't successful, but it got made. Tyco made toys based on the TV show. You had these like little 3.5-inch sort of G.I. Joe sized guys, and then their mechs that they would sit in. And all the mechs from the show are here. You've got a Mauler, you've got the big Axeman that Adam Steiner's rocking in. You got Nikolai Malthus's Thor. You got a Hunchback with Pytor. The like kind of like, I don't want to call him a bitch boy, but he's not very powerful, or not powerful. He doesn't get a lot of respect in the show. You got Nikolai Malthus's Toad, which is his elemental battle suit. You got a Bushwhacker with Volton Rider in it, a Sloth, which is another battle suit, but an Intersphere one with Franklin Sakamoto, and an Infiltrator that Adam Steiner rocks around in too. So a toy line, right? Games Workshop's toy line is, I don't know, 3 years old. Like they went with McFarlane toys. There was never really any like Toy Store toys made for Games Workshop stuff at the time. This is in '95 they're making this. And then the pièce de résistance, the Sega Genesis SEGA CD game. There was a Battletech game on the Genesis / Sega CD. So either one. So you had the Genesis, A Game of Armored Combat, and then Grey Death Legion for Sega CD also being played. So like, you got video games, right, for one of them. Again, interestingly enough, for the competitor console that ended up not working out, it's like they made all the bad bets, basically, when they came out. Tyco is a toy company that I think got bought up by Hasbro. Genesis, obviously, Sega gets bought up by Nintendo eventually. But the argument, okay, it didn't work out, it wasn't successful, doesn't, I guess, reduce the fact that it happened. They spent money on this, and the property was a big enough deal that people thought investing in creating both a TV show and all of these other ancillary products was important. So I think this book in and of itself is a great example of how different 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, 27 years ago, the gaming market was compared to today, and how there was a lot of competition inside that market that we just don't realize existed back then. We feel like there's competition in the market right now, but really, if you were to look at the overall sales reports of all the companies, there's really one miniature wargame company, and there's a lot of smaller sort of like boutique businesses that exist around it. So it's an interesting book from that point of view. So like I said, this literally follows the TV show, and it was designed as sort of an introduction, not just to the source book for like the campaign material, like the clan invasion when Jade Falcon attacked Somerset, but also just Battletech in general. So it gives an overview of like not just the Somerset Strikers, but even the editions that we're playing through. So yeah, interestingly enough, Mech Warrior 2nd edition, which is the RPG, and then City Tech and Battletech 2nd and 3rd edition, which are the 2 starter sets for the actual game. What is Battletech? The prologue, so the Rise of the Clans coming back from the Star League Defense Force in 3050. And then it goes through the episodes actually of the TV show. So the Gathering Storm is when Somerset gets attacked and Adam Steiner's brother gets, lost basically. And Adam decides to go and collect a team. And then every episode is them kind of collecting a new teammate and then going and having a showdown on Somerset. So the Battle of Dust Bowl, episode 3, Warriors of Light and Steel on Romulus. And you can see here, these are actually taken from the show. And I should note, I will link the show. You can watch it all on YouTube for free. I'm pretty sure the rights have just been like given up at this point, because it exists. You can just watch the entire series basically remastered on the web. I think there was some collaboration actually to make that happen with some online folks to try and restore and make it watchable by people. Episode 4, and it goes through episode by episode. I don't want to ruin this, but like No Guts, No Galaxy. I don't want to ruin the storyline, but you basically get the entirety of the TV show episode by episode, and it gives you an overview of what happens. So you don't have to watch the show if you don't want to. It gives you background for all the major characters. So Adam Steiner, the Somerset Strikers, Han Solo basically, wearing his cool vests. Hawk Hawkins, the names are so good. Volton Rider, who's one of the first characters they collect basically, and they're like Rogue's Gallery of Heroes. Rachel Spector, Cyril Ramirez, Kachara Kiley, Franklin Sakamoto, and then Jerome, Frestad. Dr. Nakamura and Patch McGuire. The poor man Scotty. I like the one undone button on his belly there, where his Randy Bobandy belly's hanging out. And then Adam's brother, Andrew Steiner, who's the guy they're all looking for. I like his sweet, like, Nick Fury slash, I guess you call that a cable scar. He's got his cool guy scar. Melissa Steiner Davin. And what's interesting is the Steiners have like a house name, which makes them sort of like politically powerful. And then Victor Steiner Davian. And then the big bad guy, Nikolai Malthus, Clan Jade Falcon. He's a star colonel of the Falcon's Claws. He's a giant dick. He's not nice to anybody. And then Kristen Redmond, who's the other one. She's more reasonable, but is not like, she's also fairly, you know, she's a Clan Jade Falcon like mech warrior, so she's crazy. And then Pytor, the Star Commander of the Falcon's Claws, he's like an old mech warrior. And you're not supposed to get old when you're a mech warrior. You're supposed to die in combat. So he's got the most experience of anybody, but nobody listens to him. And then Vander Von Chistu, the Galaxy Commander of Clan Jade Falcon, who's their boss, and Natalia, Star Commander of the Falcon's Claws. She's whatchamacallit, the Power Armor guys. The, not Immortals, they're called Elementals. She's an elemental pilot, so she's like 7 feet tall and like grown in a vat. And then you get your technical briefings for all the mechs. Now, they didn't include a lot of mechs. The interesting thing is it was so expensive to do the animation on the TV show that they had a few like things they wanted. They wanted all of the main cast to pilot something different. Because the idea here is if you're going to market toys or ancillary products to go with the main cast in the show, they all needed to have a unique thing they rode around in so you could sell a unique toy to go with them. This was a classic 90s era of like cartoon show marketing where all this stuff is sort of predetermined. And there's only a couple bad guys. So the clan actually only got, I think, 4 different battle mechs because the animation was so expensive and they wanted to make unique ones for all the main characters that most of the budget went into the main staff. So you only get a Hunchback 2C with its double Super AC-20s or Ultra AC-20s, the Mad Cat, so the Timberwolf, the Thor, but interestingly not a Thor, a summoner Thor that you would imagine sort of like as today. It has a central, it's really hard to make this in miniature for me because I can't find one that has the central canopy. Usually the canopy's offset and there's a big like LRM 20 or something like that. I don't know, it's an LRM, it might be SRM. There's a big rocket pod basically on its shoulder that offsets the cockpit. So ironically, the iconic Nikolai Malthus Red Thor, unless I can find one, maybe somebody's like designed one as like a gimmick that I can print or something like that. I don't have a miniature for it. I've had miniatures for everything else, but not for this. The Vulture Prime, and then you've got your Toad Battle Armor, which is basically the Elementals rather. So it's interesting because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 different clan mechs. But when you get to the Inner Sphere stuff, they're like, we can have everything. There's the Awesome, there's the Adam Center Axeman with the 2 rocket pods. There's a Bushwhacker, a Centurion, which is totally not derivative of Battlestar Galactica at all. And wait till you see the plane. It's literally a Colonial Viper. I love how they didn't even bother trying to they just copied the homework. They didn't change it at all. The Hatamoto, the Mauler, the Wolfhound, and then some battle armor, the Infiltrator battle armor, and the Sloth battle armor. So you literally have like a different thing for every cast member, and then the clan are just stuck piloting the same 4 mechs over and over again, which has been interesting because I have to find a lot of the same mech for doing the games. And then your technical redux for everything. Is this it? The Banshee Aerospace Fighter. This actually doesn't exist in Battletech. It was just for the show, and so they don't give rules for it. It's just kind of like an attack that shows up, but the miniature J found for it is literally just an Imperial Viper. And then I'll technical briefings for the spaceships and stuff, and then scenarios. And I'm not going to wreck the scenario information, but they give you scenarios for playing through all of the missions from all of the episodes. And some of them are bonkers. Like episode 2, we switch from, we're doing a lot of, so there's literally no episodes for episode 1. There's no missions because if episode 1 doesn't go the way it's supposed to go and Andrew Center doesn't get like attacked and Somerset gets destroyed, then nothing else happens from there on. So it starts at episode 2, weirdly. You don't get an episode 1 scenario. But episode 2 Dust Ball Showdown, it's literally, it pits 1, 2, 3, 4 Inner Sphere mechs against 10 10 Omni-mechs. It's bananas. So we switched to Alpha Strike for a few of these because the forces are so big that it would take like an entire weekend to play in Classic Battletech. So we jump around a little bit between Classic Battletech and whatchamacallit, and Alpha Strike. So episode 3 we're gonna do Alpha Strike as well because it's like literally, it's a single star of like it's 2 Mad Cats, a Thor, and 2 Vultures, like heavy, not heavy, but like main battle line mechs, fighting 2 lances of Inner Sphere mechs that are mostly Wolfhounds. And it would take forever to do using CBT, so we'll play it using, whatchamacallit instead, playing Alpha Strike. Whereas like the race for Quiden, it's a little more reasonable. It's 3 Inner Sphere mechs against, again, 5 like, whatchamacallit, 5 Omni-mechs, which won't go well for the Inner Sphere, but is still playable, I guess. It's gonna take 7 hours to do. So yeah, it goes through, and you basically you end at the final liberation of Somerset Military Academy in episode 13. You even got RPG stuff, so if you wanted to play Mech Warrior as well as opposed to playing Battletech, you could play the RPGs in these characters or have them show up as NPCs and stuff and interact with them. And then you got all your stats and statistics for the mechs and stuff too. And that's it. Game information for all them. And then again, these amazing ads for both the novels, the Tycho toys, and the SEGA CD and SEGA Genesis video games. The end. So there you have a look at Battletech the Somerset Strikers. I think this is worth exploring, like I said, because it is very much a product of a unique time in history where FASA Corporation, you had Heartbreaker Target, and you had Games Workshop, all, I mean, other ones too. DreamPod 9 is the Canadian version of that, and I want to talk more about them because they're the other big mech combat one. They had some really successful video games. They did a video game with Activision called Heavy Gear and Heavy Gear 2 that were some of the best mech combat games of their era in the 90s. They also had a very brief TV show that, much like this, was retconned into being like a TV show shown in the in-universe sort of like canon and stuff. But these corporations are like corporations, these companies, I shouldn't call them all corporations because they're not all incorporated. They were really like, there was a pack basically of companies all doing huge amounts of money for, you know, proportionally for the time, all vying for the attention of the average gamer my age. You know what I mean? I'm 15 when this comes out. So this was me like looking at the game store at my pocket money being like, should I play Battletech or should I play Warhammer 40,000? Obviously, this was the one I didn't do, but I did play 4. I did play Warzone and Chronopia, and I did play Heavy Gear. So literally of the 5 companies I just described, Battletech was the one I didn't play until just recently, mostly because of the miniatures. But you can see it was trying to get my attention a million different ways. And I think that that's something worth exploring because it shows how far we've come. Not that Battletech isn't doing great and that the models aren't the best they've ever been and stuff like that, but there isn't the same level of competition as there was back then, where they were hitting from all angles, right? The toy store, the video games, the TV show, like that was, some people were putting some serious money around this horse being the winner of that overall race in the end. So argue with me if you want. I'm not saying Battletech wasn't successful and hasn't had a fantastic like career over time, but if you talk about whoever grew the most and became like the dominant sort of like industry presence, obviously Battletech is not the success with fans isn't the same as success financially and growing as a business. And the property has changed hands several times since then, whereas you have one company that's kind of just stayed present all the way through. So we're gonna have a ton of fun playing through this. I'm excited. Jay and I've already filmed the first 2 episodes and they're wacky and stupid, just like the show was. So I hope you enjoy it. And of course you can see the first one today. So big thanks for watching. We'll see you for more Throwback Thursday GMG reviews in the future. So I'm Ash. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continuing to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death for Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.